Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters. I'm your host, Mitch. Glad to have you here. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about Commander on a budget. Today we have an episode of Commander's 2 Cents. On episodes like these, I give you my own personal take on topics about the format in general and current news. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. And while you're at it, subscribe and review our podcast as well. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So in Commander, it's always good to have options, especially when it comes to board wipes. So today we're going to be talking about the most flexible board wipes in Commander. Sometimes you got to deal with a variety of things, and it's always good to have those options to be able to pick and choose whatever helps you the most in the situation that you're in. So let's start with probably the most flexible board wipe and one of the more popular ones, and that's going to be Austere Command. Austere Command is a sorcery that costs 4 white. It says choose 2. Destroy all artifacts, destroy all enchantments, destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less, or destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 4 or less. So you can kind of pick and choose exactly what works for you. If you need to essentially blow up all creatures, you can, because you can destroy all creatures with power 3 or less, converted mana cost 3 or less, or converted mana cost 4 or less, and do both of those. If you need to get rid of all artifacts and enchantments, but no creatures, you can do that too. Or if you need to do a combination of things, you can do that as well. Maybe you've got a token army, you can keep those alive by saying, okay, let's go for converted mana cost 4 or greater, and then let's just get rid of artifacts because I don't need those either. So you can just pick and choose, being able to just make sure that you are kind of benefiting the most from this board wipe is kind of the important thing. Yes, there are plenty of board wipes out there that can just destroy everything, but kind of a more tailored approach can be a lot better in a game of Commander to set your opponents back and set you ahead. It's not going to be perfect in every single situation, but it can definitely help you out, and that's why it's a pretty popular board wipe. Definitely worth that 6 mana, and it's a great one. Another one that's a little more recent is going to be Cleansing Nova. Cleansing Nova is a sorcery that costs 3 white. It says choose 1, destroy all creatures, or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. So this is less tailored than that Austere Command, but still very effective. If there's a board full of creatures and you need to get rid of them, you can do that. If there's if you're in the best creature situation, if you've got the best army out there, and your opponents are just stacking up on artifacts and enchantments, you can really set them back. So again, just having that flexibility, having that option to kind of help you out in the situation that you're in is great. This one does cost 1 less than Austere Command, gives you less flexibility, but still a decent amount of flexibility. I mean, it can honestly do the exact same thing in some circumstances where it's either destroying all creatures, which Austere Command can do if you choose 2 of those, and it can also destroy all artifacts and enchantments, and again, Austere Command can do just that. It doesn't have as much flexibility, but there's still enough flexibility to make it very effective in a game of Commander. Another one that only lets you pick 1, but can still be extremely effective, is going to be Merciless Eviction. Merciless Eviction is a sorcery that costs 4 white. It says choose 1. Exile all artifacts, exile all creatures, exile all enchantments, or exile all planeswalkers. So this one actually can hit planeswalkers, whereas the other ones can't. And on top of that, it's exiling things, which can be a lot more effective in a game of Commander. Again, it gets around things like indestructibility, regeneration, if certain creatures have regeneration, which not many do, but some do. And then also it gets rid of or gets away from any kind of death triggers. It gets away from any kind of reanimation, any kind of recursion. It can do a lot of good things. And again, it gives you that flexibility of getting rid of artifacts, creatures, enchantments, planeswalkers. Just a lot of good options. It gets rid of pretty much whatever you need. Again, this only lets you pick 1. And it is an Orzhov, so it can't fit into, every white deck like Cleansing Nova or Austere Command can, but it still is extremely effective, gives you a lot of good options, and can really help out in a lot of circumstances. A very recent one from Ikoria is going to be Extinction Event. This one is a sorcery that costs 3 and a black, and it says choose odd or even, exile each creature with converted mana cost of the chosen value, and 0 is even, it says. So this one only deals with creatures, but still very flexible for you. Let's say that you're in a deck and you know that you run let's just say you have a token deck. So you've got tokens, which are, according to this, even. So then you know that you pretty much just always need to save that. And you can get rid of all the odd creatures out there. Now, this one is a bit more it is a bit more specific for the deck that it's going to work for. You need to have a deck that really kind of leans heavily in one or the other, I believe, either odd or even creatures. But basically, you can really make this effective. You can make this into a very one-sided board wipe for just 4 mana, and again, it's exiling, it's not just destroying. So again, it gets around the indestructibility, gets around death triggers, it doesn't allow people to reanimate or recur those creatures, so it can be extremely effective. Again, this one doesn't touch artifacts or enchantments. Again, in mono black, you really don't have too many ways to do that, or any ways to do that, really. So yeah, still a very effective one, though, for a creature-based board wipe that does exile and does give you that flexibility that can really help you out in the right situation. Is it going to be perfect all the time? No, but it can help get rid of probably the best threats on the board, or some of the best threats at least. Another one that is somewhat recent as well is going to be Nightmare Unmaking. It's a sorcery for 3 black. It says choose one. Exile each creature with power greater than the number of cards in your hand, or exile each creature with power less than the number of cards in your hand. So this one is something that actually is flexible in a couple of different ways. First off, it lets you pick and choose. Okay, so let's say you have the, again, the token army, these small creatures out there, and you're worried about all those big creatures out there. You can exile all those. Again, exiling is key. I mean, destroying is great, but when you can have an effect that does exile, it's almost always going to be more effective. And the other flexibility, piece of flexibility for this one is that you can control the number of cards in your hand. You might choose to hold a land drop back before casting this, or you're going to cast a couple extra spells to make sure that you can kind of move and adjust the number of cards in your hand. Maybe you cast something that lets you draw multiple cards so that you can get the number up. You can basically just pick and choose. Maybe you have a discard outlet that lets you discard a couple of things to make sure you get it to that right number. Again, this can be a very one-sided board wipe where essentially your opponents are left with basically nothing when it comes to creatures, and you're left with pretty much everything that you need. Again, it does cost 5 mana, but it does exile. I think it can be very effective in the right deck. Again, it's not for every deck, but if you're in your meta, maybe the other person's the token plays a token deck, and you've got the big creatures. Maybe you're going to go the other route where you're keeping those big creatures on the board. You're taking out the tokens, and then you just swing through to win. It can be extremely effective. And not an X spell, I guess, but a spell that deals with X values that can be extremely effective is going to be Toxic Deluge. This one is a French commander staple for many people. It's a sorcery that costs 2 and a black. It says, as additional cost to cast Toxic Deluge, pay X life. All creatures get -X until end of turn. This is kind of the ultimate flexibility for a board wipe, when a creature-based board wipe, because although it doesn't exile, it is giving -X, which can get around that indestructibility, can get around regeneration. It's always just going to cost you 3 mana, and you can always, unless your life total is extremely low, which in Commander you should be fine to pay pretty much any amount of life that you need to. You can pick and choose that exact amount that you want, and it still only costs 3 mana. So you can basically say, okay, my creatures are 6/6s. Everyone else has pretty much things that are 5 power or 5 toughness or below. So we'll just pay 5, and then everyone loses their creatures for 3 mana, and mine stay on the board. So this is a very flexible board wipe. Again, there's a reason it's very popular. It doesn't cost, it costs 3 mana. That's extremely low for a board wipe. Very effective and very flexible. One that's very flexible as well that kind of deals with an X value is going to be Great Gaze of Granite. It's a sorcery for X, black, green. So destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X or less. So this one, you do have to pay mana into that X, but again, you're in green, so you've got plenty of ways to ramp, plenty of ways to get to whatever X value you essentially need. And then this one destroys every permanent on the board except for things that you want to keep around. So again, even if you're just trying to get rid of tokens, you can just cast this for 3, and it gets rid of all the tokens on the board. But again, this one's like, you can kind of look at your board, you can look at your opponent's boards and see what the most effective number to put into that X is. If you've got a couple things on the board that have got higher converted mana cost, you can keep those around while still just demolishing everything else on the board. It can be like obviously Cyclonic Rift is kind of far and above every other kind of board wipe when it comes to Commander, but it can be kind of that Cyclonic Rift type effect where, your opponents are decimated and you're left with everything still. You still have the best position on the board because it is that flexible pick and choose what you want to do. A similar-ish one to that kind of sticks around is going to be Pernicious Deed. It's an enchantment that costs 1 black-green, and it says, pay X, sacrifice Pernicious Deed, destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with converted mana cost X or less. Now, this doesn't take out every single non-land permanent. Planeswalkers are going to stick around, but it does take out pretty much everything, and it is a bit... I guess you can kind of like plan ahead on when you want to actually cast this. You can put it down and then keep it there and then save up mana for that X later. So it is kind of flexible. It is a a threat that sticks on the board that other players might have to play around. Maybe they're going to choose not to play certain things because of that. It can be a deterrent on top of it being a fantastically flexible board wipe. And again, it can, you can basically kind of pick and choose exactly when you need to do that. It basically, you can do it at instant speed, obviously, because you can sacrifice whenever you want, as long as you've got the mana that you need for it. So this is a fantastic one, especially for decks that can recur it, like a Muldrotha deck. You can keep getting this back over and over and over again, flexibly, I don't know if that's a word, but you can just keep wiping the board in the way that's most beneficial to you. It's a fantastic flexible board wipe that is on an enchantment, so you can just keep getting it back and recurring it in certain decks and in certain ways. And yeah, it's a great one. Finally, let's go through Displacement Wave, which is a personal favorite of mine because one of my decks. It's a sorcery that costs X blue and says return all non-land permanents with converted mana cost X or less to the owner's hands. So this one is, again, all the other ones I've talked about so far have been kind of destroy or exile or whatnot. This one's just bouncing, but bouncing can still be extremely effective, maybe even almost as effective as destroying for a certain deck. If you've got a wheel effect or something like that, you can essentially get rid of everything. But Displacement Wave can also help you out as well. Maybe you've got a deck where you've got a lot of maybe creatures or things with ETBs. So if you're going to recast them, you get value out of them. You're bouncing things back to everyone's hands. Again, this can just wipe out token armies just for 2 mana, essentially. And so this can be extremely effective. Again, it's kind of that variable board wipe where you can put whatever into X that you need to benefit you the most, to hurt your opponents the most. And again, in some decks, like my Joyer deck, it actually kind of revolves around a card like this where you say, okay, cool, like I'm just going to bounce things back to your hands that I don't want to be there. And then also I get to bounce back, all my artifacts for cheap and then basically just recast those for value. So it's a flexible board wipe that can really hurt your opponents, can really help you out. It's not going to get rid of things permanently unless you've got other things to help out with that. But still, even just getting rid of things temporarily can be enough to help you close out a game for a lot of decks. So yeah, this is just my kind of short list for very flexible board wipes in Commander. There's definitely more out there, but this is kind of my, short favorite list of ones that, if you're looking for kind of that flexibility when it comes to dealing with threats, when it comes to dealing with opponents, these are some great ones to consider. So yeah, in the comments below, let me know what you think. Let me know what your favorite out of these are, or maybe one that I missed that you think is a very flexible board wipe that you think is fantastic in Commander and you really enjoy it. So yeah, comment below with that. And as always, thanks again and have a good one. And make sure you're following us on social media for more updates and sneak peeks on future episodes. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons who help make this show possible. I truly couldn't do any of this without your support. If you want to support this channel directly, consider becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, including being able to vote on future Commanders for deck techs. There are even tiers where you get your own personalized deck tech dedicated to you. You can check out all the Patreon tiers and rewards at patreon.com/commandersquarters. If you haven't already, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about budget Commander. So while you're at it, go ahead and check out some of our other types of episodes. And with that, I'm out of here. Thanks again and have a good one.